So, topic of discussion today is the Christopher Schur trial. We know that jury selection is underway. Can you tell us what this process is looking like? We're not allowed in the courtroom right now, but um, obviously this jury selection is a very big deal.
Going to be difficult to get a jury in this high profile case. Doesn't mean that it's impossible, but it's an exhaustive questioning process that the lawyers engage in, which is designed to eliminate those persons who, for one reason or another, have formed an opinion or cannot be fair. And those are called challenges for cause. And lawyers have an unlimited number of challenges for cause. There are also what are known as peremptory challenges. And that's where lawyers don't have to give a reason. And in a murder case, each lawyer has 12 of those. So the process takes a while, especially in a case like this where there's been a lot of publicity. And the law is that there is no change of venue until the court has engaged in the process and comes to the conclusion that the process is futile because there are just no one who can uh, hear this case based on what they have already heard.
Yeah, and I think you said it right there. This case has gotten a lot of publicity, so it's the judge is probably trying to make sure that it's fair, right, with selection.
The judge is obligated during the what we call the voir dire process to question jurors. And in a case like this, it would not be uncommon for there to be juror questionnaires that have been distributed in advance of the jurors being brought into the courtroom so that the lawyers, both the government lawyers and the defense lawyers, can see right off the bat before they waste a lot of time in the court questioning jurors who has heard about the case and what is it that they have seen and what kind of an opinion they may have formed.
Yeah, and do you think that the news coverage, obviously a lot over the years that people have seen and heard, are gonna play a huge role in this process and choosing the jurors? What is that gonna be like?
Everybody knows about this case. There was civil unrest in the city of Grand Rapids. We have a white police officer who was in an encounter with a black motorist, and the black motorist died at the hands of the white police officer. That is known by everyone in this community. The questions, though, become, and these are jury questions, whether or not the police officer uh, and whether or not the government can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the police officer intended to kill, whether or not the police officer's actions were justified under the law, because he was perhaps during the encounter put in fear for his life and may have acted in self-defense. People already have strong opinions about what occurred based on what they've seen, but the court will instruct them that the only evidence that they are to consider is evidence that they hear in the courtroom under the strict conditions imposed for the admissibility of things in a courtroom. And they have to disregard anything that they have seen previously, just as they would need to disregard any opinions that they may have formed based on what they've seen previously if they're going to sit in judgment of Mr. Schur in this case.
Yeah, and exactly to that point, how is this judge going to make sure that the jurors that are selected are unbiased?
Well, nobody has a crystal ball. Jurors, when they're brought in and sworn in to answer questions, are obligated to tell the truth, and it's up to the lawyers and the judge to question jurors to try to determine if the bias that they may have, if they do have bias, would interfere with their ability to hear the evidence presented and be fair, not only to the government, but also to the defense.
Yeah, we've heard this and we don't know if it's true. Do you know if the judge is selecting only jurors that are not familiar with this case?
I don't know that. And I think that it would be virtually impossible uh, to find 12 jurors who've never heard anything about this case. And the law doesn't require that. And what the law requires, on the other hand, is if the jurors have heard, seen, read about this case, that they put aside whatever they've read and whatever opinions they have formed to sit and hear the case that's presented in the courtroom, follow the instructions that the judge gives them when they are retired to deliberate, and render a fair and just verdict based on the evidence, not based on community sentiment or other things that really are not relevant when a man is on trial for murder.
Randy, do you know why so many jurors that they're going through for this trial? Probably because it's a high profile trial, but we heard the judge is going through over 200.
Um, that's not uncommon in a case like this that I believe has gained national notoriety as kind of the Michigan George Floyd case, if you will. I think that 200 jurors is probably a pretty good estimate of where to start, and I wouldn't be surprised, uh, based on the kind of coverage this case has engendered, that the court doesn't call in another panel and exhaust the 200 that it has before it seats the jury.
Anything else you'd like to say about this case? Obviously, we know that trial is slated to begin on Monday. It's gonna be a big deal, of course, as we know. Anything else that you would like to say about this case?
I would just like to point out that the jury selection process is going to be important because there are hot button issues in this case. There's the issue of a white police officer and a black defendant. There's the issue of police officers in general and the danger that they operate on the day to day when they do their job. There's the issue of substance abuse because it's alleged that the defendant was 3 times the legal limit and how his behavior may have impacted the decisions that the police officer made, what his state of mind was. All of these are interesting questions, and all of these things are areas where lawyers are entitled to probe the jury on to see whether or not they can, once again, decide this case just on the evidence and disregard whatever preconceived notions and opinions they may have formed.
Absolutely. Randall, thank you so much for your time. We
It was a
greatly
pleasure.
appreciate it, and it's nice to meet you. I have
Good to
one
meet